I've always thought that the folding category wasn't for me, and by some miracle, I think that's all changed. That miracle is and this time for real, flagship device called the Galaxy Z Fold7. Refinement and relentless pursuit of an ideal is what Samsung are doing with the Fold series. Through some engineering mastery, you have a phone that's only 8.9 millimeters when folded and 4.2 millimeters unfolded. They have just about realized the dream of a regular bar phone that miraculously folds out into a tablet. That was the dream anyway, right? Like I say just about intentionally, although I love the front display size, not everybody's going to enjoy this. Like I have relatively small hands, and using the 6.5-inch 21:9 cover screen is like using a smaller phone from yesteryear, the stuff that we are used to when we first started using phones. It's that 21:9 aspect ratio that squeezes the sides of the phone in a bit, making it taller than you'd expect for a 6.5-inch device. This aspect ratio is intentional. Firstly, because when open, the phone becomes more of a 4:3 experience that's easier to hold, something reminiscent of a book. The second reason is 21:9 makes for a decent viewing experience for most media. Most traditional phones come with a more 16.9-ish size display, so think of it as the difference between watching a full-screen movie at home on your TV and one of those ultra-wide movies with the black bars on the top and the bottom. So if you have chubby fingers or your hands are the size of the Hulk's, you might not get the same mileage from the front screen that I have. The other magic is this hinge. Like, not only is this the sole reason that they've managed to flatten out the phone as much as this, it's also IP48 dust and water resistant, which is wild, which makes this one of the components that makes the Galaxy Z Fold7 so durable. The front screen is a Gorilla Glass Victus Ceramic 2 and Gorilla Glass Victus 2 on the back. The weakest part of the whole device is the screen inside, which is layered with plastic on the front. So by all means, take this phone to places that you wouldn't. I put this into fountains, like in the mountains and stuff, but please keep stuff outside of the screen when it's folded like this, if you can, and don't use anything sharp when you're using the screen, like keys or nails, stuff that could divot it or bend it in. There are a few downgrades when it comes to the unfolded screen, stuff I think Samsung have implemented from their learnings from the last generations, namely that there's no more under-screen camera, which I actually think is great. I think this is an upgrade, but it's weird. The previous one, to be kind to Samsung, was serviceable. And although I appreciated the experimentation of having a, under-screen camera that's covered by screen, practically it just wasn't working. But gone is that milky haze over the footage, and I'm really grateful for that. They've also removed the S Pen support, which I'm pretty bummed about. Having spoken to somebody at Samsung, they made the decision because of how few people were using the S Pen. That was they had data on that kind of stuff, and I get that. But I think that's largely due to the fact that you had to buy a pretty pricey Fold Edition S Pen outside of getting the phone. It didn't come with the device, which was pretty easy to lose. And trust me, I know, I lost mine, as well as the fact that there's no slick way to store it with a phone, and that's why I lost it. In future versions, I really would like to see a regular S Pen support here so that I could use my Tab S Pen interchangeably with it, especially because I take my Tab with me as well if I'm working on something. That's it. Unfortunately, this won't be replacing my Tab anytime soon. There's no under-screen fingerprint sensor on the screen either, and that was in older devices. So if you are a Fold user, you're going to know this, but you're going to have to unlock the screen using the fingerprint sensor on the power button or with face unlock, which I do, and it works pretty well. But that feels like the most unflagship-like experience out of the Fold that they've delivered, which isn't a really big deal. They've managed to get in wireless charging, reverse wireless charging, a Snapdragon 8 Elite chipset, a 4,400 milliamp hour dual battery because it's split across both sides of the device, 120 hertz panels for both screens, a vapor chamber, and actual flagship cameras. Look, it's not S25 Ultra, but definitely comparative. We're looking at a 200 megapixel wide camera, a 10 megapixel telephoto lens, and a 12 megapixel ultra wide, which do an excellent job. It's got all the expected modes, including Expert RAW, and does a really good job, as you can see. It doesn't have a dedicated macro lens, but by changing the ultra wide's focal length, it can grab some pretty neat macro shots. Remember, the chipset is doing all the processing, so they're able to perform some really special stuff. And that's just one of the things that sets this fold apart. There are little to no compromises here. Taking photos in flex mode, the mode that Samsung call when the phone is folded, really makes this a special device. You can display what you're taking a photo of on the front screen, so couples having their photos taken can see what the photographer is seeing. This is going to save so many marriages and relationships. It's pretty neat for taking selfies, but the off-angle orientation makes it a little bit tricky to do so. You can either prop it up, but you've got to look around it, or you can put it up and face yourself, but you're not going to be able to see what's in frame or not because that screen's going to be on the ground. I'm not sure what the solution is to this with the current form factor, but we'll see what Samsung comes up with, but I would have thought they would have maybe solved this issue, given that it's its 7th edition of this phone. For video, it shoots up to 8K 30, supports 4K 60, and can shoot slow-mo in 1080p up to 240 FPS. It's not the same level as the S25 Ultra, but it comes pretty darn close. In fact, I think that it's more akin to the S25 Plus, which for most people is just more than enough camera. A folding device that can be usable small is only a part of that story. It's how unfolding adds to the experience of using a phone, and it extends beyond the actual camera system. And with One UI 8, Samsung has really nailed this one. I love the magic of apps that work seamlessly between the closed and open screen. Ironically, it makes the front screen more usable because you'll start checking an email, for instance, you'll justify checking an email on the front screen. And then you're going to realize that you need to respond to it and get some real work done that requires the bigger screen, for instance. And then you can open it up without any downtime. It just snaps into the app that you're using where you were using it. It's magical. To get this feature 100% working right, I actually recommend going into the settings and unchecking lock when folded, and then heading to display and selecting always on continue apps on cover screen. This makes pinging back and forth between the front screen and the unfolded screen so much better. This setting alone and the sizable front screen have made this more than a regular phone for me. For the first time for a folding device. It's mind-blowing how much more productive you can feel, but also just how great media and games and just simply reading on this device actually is. I've also done a whole video breaking down some of the productivity use cases when folded and unfolded, so check that out if you're looking for ideas on how to use your Z Fold7. And of course, it's got all the Galaxy AI stuff that you're used to in other Samsung devices like the S25 Ultra. If you'd like a dedicated video on Galaxy AI, I'm more than happy to do that for you. I think it's kind of about time we need to do like Galaxy AI updated videos. So just let me know in the comments because pretty happy to do that. But by far, one of my favorite things to do with the Z Fold7 is gaming. It's wow. Firstly, we've got the game bar, which is this really cool feature where you can see this in One UI. It pops up and you can prioritize the game that's on the screen. You basically can clock your phone for the games that you'd like to play. Do you want better graphics with a slower frame rate, or do you want a higher frame rate with lower graphics for performance? The choice is yours. We also have 120 hertz display, which is awesome. And that's on both screens. So if you want to play with that 21:9 on the front, you can. That can save a little bit of battery, but opening this up and getting 120 hertz on that big screen with all the performance and guaranteed frames is really fun. And it just looks so good. It's also got really good battery performance, which I obviously attribute to the chipset because we're looking at a 4,400 milliamp hour battery. I got to get some really good sessions in for, 3 hours, playing Wild Rift and maybe getting 40% of the battery deducted. You can also bypass this with the game bar settings, but yeah, wow, they really do have something really special here. I'm not sure how long this is gonna take over time, but I assume that the processor is doing all of that heavy lifting and power management. And lastly, it really feels good in your hand. That's something that's completely overlooked when I've saw what other reviewers were talking about. But the fact that you can hold this thing and it's so light is just, it makes you want to play games on here versus like having to have this really like heavy device. You got to like lock in and hold this thing. But I can hold this above my head and play some games and it's relatively chilled. I really like this form factor. Having it so thin and playing games on is great. It feels like a regular phone when it's folded, in a cute form factor that you can get away with using the entire day without opening up the phone. Then unfolded, it's so thin, you'd think it's some magically thin miniature tablet, the width of a USB port. Like, it's bonkers. Reading, YouTube, and gaming on here are just so good. I feel like I'm cheating on my S25 Ultra. Samsung, well done. Now to get this price right. Let me know what you think of the Z Fold7. If you bought one, are you using it? Is there any tips and tricks you'd like to tell me? And if you're thinking about buying one, please consider using the links in the description. It really helps me out on this channel, and enjoy it. Stay tuned. I'm going to be doing the Flip review next, so I'll check you in that video.